Artificial intelligence, or AI, is already here. Now, is it a good or a bad thing? It's not going away anytime soon, so how should we respond? Joining me now via Skype from San Diego, California, is Chad Stewart. He's the founder of the Britfield company and author of the exciting new book entitled Britfield and the Lost Crown, the first in a series of 5 novels. Chad, welcome to BCN.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Let's talk a bit about your book, and it's filled with a lot of family values, is it not?
It is. It's great. It's the first in a 5 to 7 book series, Britfield and Lost Crown, and it takes place in England. And what's great about this book is it's a little under 400 pages. It's a fast-paced adventure novel, but what's fun about it is that it's placed in real time. So it's not in the future, it's not in the past. And what's nice about this too is it's not a fantasy book, where Tom and Sarah, who are 2 orphans up at Weatherly Orphanage up in England, are trying to escape. Tom finds out that his family might still be alive, and they somehow commandeer a hot air balloon and start traveling throughout England. And so what's exciting about the book, we've already scored a 9.03 out of a scale of 1 to 10 across all our demographics, if you can imagine, is that it really focuses on family values, and it takes place in current times, which really, I think, engages the audience a lot better. So we're really excited. We did a soft launch in April, and then we're going national in really August, and then international next year.
Hot air balloon ride, yeah, I did that myself about 10 years ago. It's an amazing adventure. So who is the book really aimed at primarily? Is it families? And what kind of feedback are you receiving so far?
Sure. It's really kind of a middle school young adult book, but what's interesting is that 55% of the young adult audience are parents. And it's interesting, we just received an email from one of our fans, a 43-year-old mother who picked up the book and read it and emailed us back and said she just absolutely loves us. So our youngest reader was an advanced 7-year-old. Our oldest reader is an 87-year-old retired doctor who couldn't put it down and loved it. We've had 12-year-olds that have read it in 5 hours, and the feedback has been phenomenal. We've won 7 awards so far, and again, it was just soft launched in April. We won an international award. And it's just amazing. I mean, the feedback's been incredible. We're getting 10 out of 10s from our audience, from our demographics, from our reading group. And then we can talk a little bit about the book tour too.
Now, Chad, you say we have an AI crisis. Can you explain that?
Yeah, I mean, as AI is creeping on us and already on us, we definitely are in an AI crisis. And this we could talk a little bit about the creativity and how to counter it. But it's really, I mean, I could just give you some numbers and some stats because they speak for themselves. But because of AI, within the next 5 or 10 years, 95% of all accounting jobs will be obsolete. 40 to 50% of all banking jobs will be obsolete. We know that almost 40 to 50% of all the medical fields, such as doctors and nurses, will be leaving that field in the next 7 to 10 years. A lot of it's going to be replaced by AI or online medical things, and along with analytical engineering and media jobs are all going to be replaced by AI. And I can go on, but I don't want to flood you with statistics. But we definitely are in a crisis right now. We're in an AI crisis and a creativity crisis.
Well, you know what's interesting? I've noticed even in China and the Far East how they've substituted real-life news anchors with AI.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm like, wait a minute, that's my job. Whoa, easy here, right? So what are some of the practical approaches we can implement now to stay ahead of the AI game?
I think some of it is, and we can talk a little bit about media, its impact and its influence, or just even the iPhones. And there's a balance to anything. I mean, it's just, I think if you're a parent, I think a couple things that are really important is make sure that you have strict rules regarding the iPhone with your kids. I think there should be a certain age that kids don't have the iPhones. We know the impact, and I don't think we have enough time to go into all of it, but the effects that the iPhone and media will have on a child, especially from the ages 12 and under. So, some of the simple things is, I mean, my goodness gracious, never at the dinner table, or if you're out for a family meeting, I think I would curb it, to a certain amount of times during the day. But on the other side of it, we can't deny how amazing it is to have it. I mean, I know for myself, if I'm traveling or just in general, you have an entire computer just on a phone, and you can do everything that you need to do on it. So there's definitely pros and cons to it, but it is a problem. I think if you're using your iPhone, and I'm using kind of that as a media sort of AI type of thing, because a lot of the phone is geared towards that AI. Always use the speaker. Never hold it up to your ear. For women on the iPad or any of those kind of things, never lay down. Never have it laying on your stomach because it has a lot of effects on your brain, on your body. So those are just some of the practical things. I can go more in depth if you wanted me to.
You know what's interesting too is I think it's like what Mom always says, everything in moderation. So be careful with the AI because it might interfere with social interactions, with personal relationships with human beings, right?
It is, and we're seeing that. And again, I mean, if we had an hour, we could really go into it. But you're seeing that with this generation. They call it, the Generation Z, and all the skills and all the skill sets are down. Communication skills, writing skills, all of that. Some of that's from the Twitter, phenomenon where people are getting used to not even completing complete sentences and stuff. We have a massive problem in the educational system and the school system. A lot of it from media, a lot of it from AI, and where we're directed with AI, and what it's trying to replace. And so, I think, in a practical standpoint, nothing beats relationships, the one-on-one communication, the getting outside. I mean, I remember, and you probably remember as a kid, we'd go down to the park and go play, or you get together with all your friends and stuff. That's just as healthy now as it's ever been. And get the kids off the games. I mean, if you have to, 30 minutes a day, or let them earn it, finish your homework, and then you can play for 35, 45 minutes. Get the kids outside, get them interacting, get them in sports, or fun sports, or curricular sports, or frisbee football, or something with the friends, or the fan. I mean, those kind of things. Everything that we grew up with is as important, if never more important now. And a lot of it's just kind of common sense and practicality.
But I remember too when I was a kid, you're right. I mean, before dinner was hop on my bike after school and take off, and then come home, have dinner, finish my homework, and then take off again on my bike until it was time for bed, right? And then you came back home.
Yeah. It's the getting outside, it's the natural light, because obviously there's also a lot of research that's based on just your laptop and the particular type of light feeds back, especially with the phone. Don't have it. One thing with the phone is don't have it by your bedstand. Don't have it there at night. Turn it off, or keep it away, keep it in another room. A lot of those kind of things are really important.
Now, you're doing a national school tour of over 250 schools, educating students and teachers about creative thinking. Tell me a bit more about that.
Yeah, so you have the AI crisis, and then we also have the creativity crisis. So I guess what's the biggest thing that you can do to counter the AI crisis or the creativity crisis? And the one thing with all the stats that I talked about earlier about AI is that the one thing it cannot replace is creativity. So on one side, as a nation, the United States, we've been in a massive decline, creativity wise, for the last 2 decades. And I'll give you a couple quick stats and scores, but a famous researcher, writer, George Land, had done a study of over 20 years of children, and watching their progression. And he noticed that 5-year-olds have scored a 95% as far as creativity. He tested them again at 10, and they were at 30%. He tested them at 15, and they were at 10%. And so you see this massive decline from 5 to 15 of creativity. So we as a nation are in a creativity crisis. Dr. Kim, she's out of William and Mary. She's done a wonderful book called The Creativity Crisis. She also did a study of hundreds of thousands of students over a 20-year period, and noticed that in 10 different specific areas, critical thinking, creativity, communication, it's just been a massive decline. And so you have this creativity crisis, you have this AI crisis, but on the other side of it, AI can never replace creativity. You have the World Economic Forum that's saying creativity will be one of the top 3 skills by 2020. You have an IBM study that did a survey with 1,500 CEOs nationwide that said creativity is the #1 leadership quality of the future. And then you had an Adobe study, 2012, that showed that HR hiring directors are preferring creative candidates, 5 out of 1. And I could go on and on and on with the numbers. And I have all the stats out there, and you can research it yourself. But it's really showing that in the next 5 to 10 years, in my opinion, from my research, creativity will be the most important skill set to have. And so you might be an older adult, 40, 50 years old, and say, that's not going to affect me. And it's just like, it will affect you in the next 3 to 5 years, and it's affecting your children right now. And if they don't start to incorporate creativity skills or creative arts or any kind of artistic sort of thing or field, they're going to be left out, and they're not going to be able to get work or jobs.
Now, the book Britfield and the Lost Crown fosters the 4 C's. We're talking creativity, critical thinking, communication, and collaboration, correct?
Correct, yeah. And I'm sorry I cut you off about the book tour, but yeah, we launched a spring book tour. And what I'm doing is I'm coming into schools. We're leading as an award-winning author with Britfield and Lost Crown, but I'm doing about a 45-minute presentation on creativity. And I usually have a room full of middle school students and teachers of anywhere from 100 to 200 at a time. And it's just been wonderful. It's been very interactive. We have lots of fun pictures to look at. We talk a little bit about Pixar, Toy Story, Star Wars, all these creative things. And what the biggest thing is where they came from, it, which is an idea and the power of having an idea. And so I've done already 39 schools, 4,500 students, and we're just about to launch in August 100 to 150 schools, 16 states, and I'll be back by Christmas.
So critical thinking is vital as well. It's all about problem solving. Why do you think it's so important in today's schools that we teach more on critical thinking?
Well, it's about individuality, number one, and thinking outside the box is number two. I mean, we have a which is unfortunate. We have an educational model that's centuries old. It's really based on the Industrial Revolution, and it's based on a factory model. And many of it is that, or much of it is about, that there's only one right answer, and there are lots of different answers. There's lots of different approaches. So pretty much what you have is, especially on the public side, is you have an educational system that's kind of forcing conformity when that's the worst thing to absolutely force. You want kids to be free to think for themselves. I mean, there are future entrepreneurs of America. There are future artists. There are future, and again, too, it's not just about the arts. It's creativity is in everything. Creativity is in science. It's in mathematics. It's in engineering. It's in architecture. Creativity is in everything. But you have to have that skill set.
Yeah, creativity, absolutely, in the United States and here in Canada. Talk to us a bit about communication. How can students learn how to best convey their ideas?
I think I can give you an example. I think the best way is, let's just talk from the educational standpoint, the teachers. If the teachers were to bring in just one creative exercise a week, or gosh, even once a month, and we actually, through our Britfield Institute, we offer all kinds of creative exercises for free to teachers. In fact, we've been sort of engaged with over 150,000 teachers offering these free gifts. But if they just did one of these exercises where it's just, don't worry about it, there are no right answers, put your pencil down, and did one of these exercises, 30 minutes, maybe on a Wednesday, or maybe on a Monday to kick things off. And it was kind of a brainstorming exercise. I mean, it could be, hey, let's figure out a commercial for a product, or let's write a fun story real quick for a movie idea or something. That kind of idea where you're getting that interaction, and you're calling on each of the students, and you're building on a story. Storytelling is hugely important, and that's one exercise that if a teacher were to do that once a month, you would change the entire dynamics in that entire classroom. The one thing about creativity is it never comes back void. And what I mean by that is the second that someone tastes of it, the second that someone has that experience of it, it fills them, it fills that need that, and unfortunately, so many schools have been kind of pushing out of them. So that's just one idea, yeah.
So Chad, Britfield and the Last Crown is currently in print form, but you're also looking at a potential movie version, promoting some of those family values and education?
Yeah, it's exciting. We're looking at a major motion picture within about 2 to 2.5 years. 90% of the feedback that we've received from our readers says that it reads like a movie. The two questions I get the most from anyone that's read it is, when is book 2 coming, and will there be a movie? And so we're already in talks about the film. We're all excited about it. But again, obviously, we've got to launch the product and get it out there, which is what we're planning to do. And we're doing the book tour. We're doing a lot of media like now, and a lot of other different approaches and stuff. But we're really excited about it. I mean, it's going to be a fantastic movie, yeah.
You've also developed an 80-page study guide so schools can adapt Britfield as part of their curriculum and teach it over a semester. Any takers so far?
Oh, yeah. We developed it's actually an 83-page study guide. It's based on national standards because Britfield and Lost Crown is meant to be taught, it's meant to be taught in class. It's meant to be taught over, half a semester or a full semester. You could spend 1 week just on the first couple of chapters. It's designed that way. It's designed on the classic 3-act structure. It has all kinds of vocabulary, subplots, character arcs. And so we have that. We're offering it free to teachers. And believe it or not, 25% of all the schools we've already been to have already asked for the study guide, and a couple of schools have already bought Britfield to in bulk to teach in their classes next semester, which is frankly unparalleled and unheard of. It usually takes years and years to kind of get the book into the schools, but teachers get it, they love it. And what's great about we have a website, Britfield.com, which I really recommend anyone just to go check out. It's got 400 pictures of Britain. It's got interactive maps. And so anyone that's kind of reading it can use the website, because that's what's so fun about the book is it's not fantasy. All these are real locations. The streets are real. all the facts, the history, everything else is real. And so kids can really enjoy it, and they can actually use the website as they're reading the book and see all these places, the castles, Oxford, Windsor Castle, London, Hyde Park, you name it. And so, and the teachers can use the website as they're teaching it in class. So,
Chad Stewart, founder of the Britfield Company and author of the book Britfield and the Lost Crown. Thanks a lot for joining me today from San Diego, California.
it's great. Great. Thank you for having me. Pleasure.
On behalf of all of us here at BCN, I'm Hal Roberts. God bless and have a great night.